Okay, guys, I know we're going to be ending this class cycle for a while, and I know we're going to be a little sad, but you know what? We're going to talk about one of my absolute favorite subjects, women in travel and tourism. This is a huge deal for me. Many, many moons ago, I was a big-time backpacker. In Spanish, se dice mochilero. Mochilero is basically when you live out of a big backpack and travel through the world. And when I was your age, most of your ages, I backpacked through Europe by myself. I backpacked through Central America by myself. And I backpacked through South America, and I also backpacked through Asia. And the way I did it over a 4 or 5 year time. And what I would do is I would find a job in that country or in that area of the world. I would work for a while, and I would save up some money, and then I would just backpack and stay at hostels, and I would go to different parts of the world. But a lot of it was done, I did it with some groups, and I would meet up with groups, but most of this was done solo. So this really is a very important part to me, and I hope you guys enjoyed this class. So one of the things I want to talk to you guys about is the difference between everyday leisure and special event leisure. Everyday leisure is reading. It's your yoga practice. It's your Model T making for all those that are doing that, your video game playing, your texting. These are everyday leisure things that you do, checking Facebook, things of that sort. But then you have special event or special leisure activities. And this is something that you don't get to do very often, such as wine tasting. Don't get to do it that very often. You know, but the main thing is here is traveling. So why do women travel? Why do people travel? But we're going to talk more about specific women. You know, one of the main reasons that women travel is because they get this sense of freedom. And I cannot even tell you how incredibly important that is. You get, when you're traveling, the big thing, especially for working moms, or working women that have a structure like we've talked about in this class before. They work 8 hours a day. Then they do their second shift where they have to go work at home and to make chores and clean up. And they do this, and then they have to put the kids to bed, and they do laundry, and they do this. When women are on vacation, we are free. We don't have to do anything. And it's one of the most, I cannot even begin to tell you how amazing that feels, to have no schedule and complete freedom. And also, it's an escape for a lot of women, too. You don't have to do what the society expects you to do. You can relax. A lot of women that backpack, one of their favorite parts is no makeup, putting their hair back in a ponytail, living out of yoga pants, and being comfortable with what they're wearing in just regular T-shirts. It's this freedom of not having to keep up with what society says, just to be, once again, free. And of course, the thing is too, there are a lot of women that later on in life, they also are in a very nurturing role, whether it be a mother or being a caregiver for an older relative. Once again, they no longer have to do that taking care of and always being in charge of and looking over and supervising. They can be free of it. And of course, this also helps with developed self-esteem. So a lot of women will go out, and they like to go out and just, you know, find out who they are and explore. So, you know, those are the big things that are the benefits to it. And for me, traveling has been one of the most amazing things of my life. Some of my biggest life lessons have been around the world. You know, I learned a lot about treating others with respect when I lived in Peru. I also learned when I was traveling through Central America and Southern America, 12 o'clock, the bus is not leaving at 12 o'clock noon. It's leaving at Latino time, 12 o'clock noon, which means probably 1:30 or 1:45. So for me, someone who likes to have structure, I had to learn a new skill of letting go and just being a little more relaxed and be like, you know, just let things go by. I also learned how to coordinate and manage my life better too as a backpacker. So when I would go to a different area, I would get out my little travel book, and I only use Lonely Planet, and I would go in there and I would find out what there was to do in that city. And then what I would do is I would also follow up with them on their website and find out, because a lot of museums are closed on Monday. So it taught me how to regulate my day and put things together. It also, traveling also taught me how to be ready for the unexpected. You know, a lot of things would get changed. I know one time when I was in Bolivia, some lady came onto the bus, and she had a goat in her hand. She was holding it, and I'm just looking at her going, what just happened? And the goat got loose, and it starts running all over the bus and started peeing and pooping everywhere, and everyone was screaming. And it just remembered me it taught me patience. It taught me to be ready for experiences and things that I wasn't ready for. So for me, who I am today is thanks to travel. And one of the stories that I share with a lot of people that really impacted my life through travels and really helped me develop who I am today was when I was in Bangkok. I was sitting at a coffee shop and I was trying to figure out, do I want to go see the Lame Buddha? Do I want to go to the King's Palace? What do I want to do that day? And there's this stray dog walked into the coffee shop. And I looked at the dog and I'm like, oh, there's a stray dog. And then the owner starts coming in and I see her and goes up to the dog and I'm thinking she's going to shoo the dog away. Just get out of here. And she proceeded to bend down and give that dog a piece of bacon. The dog like lightly bowed its head and walked out. And I was blown away by that. And I went up to her and I said to her, why did you do that? Why didn't you shoo the dog away? And she looked at me very quietly and just said, that could be my grandfather. I was 23 years at the time. That was over 10 years ago. And for me, that really changed how I see stuff, because in mainstream American culture, the way we practice religion is Sunday only religion. And I go to church and look at me, I'm in my Sunday best. And I go stand, sit, kneel, up, down, sing song, go home. But a lot of American cultures, we don't really practice our religion. And here's this woman practicing Buddhism quietly, without making a show, no spotlight on her, and she slowly bowed her head and just didn't make a big show, and practiced her religion quietly. And to me, I still get chills when I think about it, because that made me realize what is religion. I learned more and more about what and who I am through my travels. So one of the other interesting things too was some of the negativity that comes with women in tourism and travel, especially women who travel solo. And I'm very familiar with this as well. You know, a lot of it is being observed uncomfortably. You know, thank goodness I blend in pretty well. I can look European, I can look Hispanic, I can look white, so I blend in pretty well. I don't look Asian. And I totally stood out when I lived there. And there were many times where I would get stared at or looked at, and it made me feel very uncomfortable as a woman. So I didn't feel comfortable, or, you know, I don't want to say not safe, but I didn't feel comfortable traveling by myself. Also, as a woman, you feel very gullible. And one of the most gullible areas that you feel is when you're eating dinner by yourself. And you kind of feel like people are looking at you. I didn't really feel people were looking at me saying, oh, poor thing, she's eating by herself, she doesn't have a date, but more of, here's a woman by herself. I felt a little bit more like prey. One of the things that I've noticed everywhere that I've traveled in the world is people feel confidence. And I'm a very confident woman. So I never really felt too scared or anything of that sort. Plus, another thing is, I'm a very tall woman. I'm 5'8", which is tall for American culture, 5'11" in high heels. You know, so when I would go travel in Asia or South America, most women are 5'2" or 5'3". I was very tall. So my height was also a very big advantage for me, and I felt that when I traveled. One of my most interesting experiences was when I was in Thailand and I was going over to Cambodia, and I was going on a bus over there. I met a woman from the New England area, and she was traveling solo by herself, and she was backpacking like me, and she was going to Cambodia, and we were both planning to go to Angkor Wat, which is the largest religious site in the world. And her and I started talking, and she's been backpacking through Africa, and she'd been backpacking through Asia. And so we decided to kind of group up, because this happens a lot when women, when they travel, is if they meet another solo traveler, we feel safer in a herd. We feel safer in a group. And what we'll do, so I told her, hey, if you'd like, we can spend the night at the same hotel. We can share the hotel price. And so when I went to the hotel with her, the first thing that she proceeded to do out of her hotel was take out all these ropes and take out all these wires. And she started to tie down all the ropes and tie down all the windows. And I asked her, why are you doing that? And she says, I feel fear that someone's going to come in and break into my hotel and someone's going to take advantage, sexually harass me, or rape me. Never in the years that I traveled did I ever feel that. But I saw this woman that she was traveling with fear. And I'm all about being cautious and stuff, but that woman was traveling with fear. So she told me that the times that she had traveled, she always felt harassed. She had backpacked through the eastern coast of Africa. She got actually, what's the word I'm looking for? She got taken by some gentlemen, and they took all her money and robbed her of all her things. So she continues to travel, but she really traveled in fear. And also in a lot of other cultures too, women that travel are very sexually harassed, especially when they travel alone. This is very common in the Caribbean. This is very common in the Latino culture. This is Central and South America. When I travel by myself, a lot of fox whistles, a lot of noise, a lot of guys coming up and talking to you. Not that I don't mind that. It's just, it makes, as a solo female traveler, you feel a little bit uncomfortable and you just feel real awkward. And this is one of the reasons that as women will solo travel, they will group up with other females and travel with them as well because of the safety factor, and I feel that way. Another thing to consider too is you have to be aware of where you're traveling and the cultural differences. Very good example, I had a female friend of mine who's a backpacker as well. When she went to Saudi Arabia, she actually had to cover herself when she was backpacking just so that she was comfortable with or actually she was comfortable with the culture and the culture was comfortable with her. So I also, a girlfriend of mine, she is a scuba diving instructor in Egypt, and that's very much a Muslim community. So she tells me she cannot wear shorts when she's out there. She's not comfortable, that she has to adapt to the community that she's in so she doesn't cause any problems and she doesn't get targeted, or she gets more looks than she already gets. So those are things I want you guys to hear a little bit more about. The another thing we're going to talk about next is not only women as the tourist, but we're going to talk about the women as the helpers to the tourism. So this is what we're going to be talking about, is women working in tourism. And we're going to talk about the benefits and also the negative things that come with that. So some of the positive things that are great for women that are in the tourism industry and the hospitality industry, it offers employment opportunities for women that normally would not get to do this. So a lot of women into these countries, the types of jobs that they can get are mainly household stuff. They can work at a kitchen, or they can be a cleaner, things of that sort. As I've traveled around the world, I've gotten to meet a lot of women, and what these women do is that they learn to speak English and they become tourist guides. So they are not in a feminine work, or as we call them, housewifeization. They don't doing things that are housewifeization type stuff, but they are doing more gender neutral things where they can make more money. And it's a great opportunity that they are out of the house and being out of the caregiver / housewife role. And of course, it's economic freedom and independence for these women. They're bringing in money. Tourism, especially American tourism, pays dollars versus their currency, which is a lot less than that. So they really get an opportunity to build themselves and really gives them some great opportunities for raising money. But at the same time, you have all the same exact things for working with tourism and hospitality. You have the same exact problems. And one of them is the glass ceiling. Oh my gosh, especially with third world countries, the glass ceiling is there and strong. Double standards, very, very common, third world countries. Unequal pay, I cannot even get into this. This is very, very, very common as well. And also sexual harassment, also with a lot of American tourists. We'll talk about that momentarily, but there's a lot of sexual harassment within there as well. And of course, in most of the hospitality industries, it's men who have the higher titles and men who have the more money and more status for these things. These are the ones that are the directors and the managers and things of that sort. Another thing that it does is one of the other negatives about the hospitality industry for women is that for a lot of these third world countries, women are boxed even further into that housewifeization role. So one great example is when I was in Lake Titicaca, the island in South America, there was what's called the floating islands of Uros. And there's these islands that are made out of reeds, and you get on there and you float, and it's floating, it's their civilization for this group of people, but it's made out of reed, and it's just islands that float in Lake Titicaca, and it's very much a big tourist attraction to that. Well, when they come there, the jobs and all the women that they're doing is they're all weaving, and they're all making their textile things to sell. So they're all back into doing the feminine-like things that the tourists want to see. These are the activities that women are to do of the culture, and they're reinforced, and they're almost like forced to get back into doing these roles to satisfy the tourists' needs. Then you also, you have these things where these women, once again, they are put in this position where they have to do what the society says the women have to do, like I said earlier to you guys, to please the tourists. Hopefully the laws will change in time. Hopefully with time, with the influence of American and more gender roles and money roles, we can equal this out a little bit more. But till then, especially with the third world countries, the tourism industry definitely helps, but it also can hurt as well. So one of the biggest things I want to talk to you guys about, and I just want you guys to take this in a little bit, and this is where I want you guys to be a little bit more open-minded, and it is basically sex tourism. And what this is extremely common. You guys have absolutely no idea what this is, but there's two different types of sex tourism, first of all. Number one, you have sex tourism, and then you have sex in tourism. And the main difference between this is sex tourism is when people, mainly men, go to a certain location for intentions of having sex with someone else and paying for it. They are going, that is the purpose of their travel. A lot of men will travel to Thailand, they will go to the Bangkok and the different areas with the intentions of sex and doing out fantasies, etc., etc. A lot of people will do sex in tourism, and it's bigger percentage, mainly bigger percentage are for women. And this is seen more as a side benefit or a side activity during their times that they're actually traveling. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. One of the most interesting things, you have both sides like we had earlier. You have the ones that are in the industry and the ones that go to the industry. So the ones that are actually, and I want you guys to just take this in for a second. The men that are in the sex tourism industry, the ones that are getting paid for this, they are seen as heroes, conquerors, and they high-fived in their culture that they were the ones that conquered the foreign woman's body. This happens very commonly with a lot of different tourism in the islands of the Caribbean, a lot in Central and South America. When women go to resorts and do stuff like that, a lot of the employees will hit on women there a lot in hopes that they can conquer the female and they get a chance to put another notch on their belt, and yay, they did that. Now, on their side, the women, and many, many times the women in the exact same country, the women who are the sex worker, are seen as detrimental to society, the trash on the floor. This is what all they're allowed to do and on the floor, even though they're getting paid. You know, it's like the men are getting paid. There's also like some women go to different countries to have sex with men, and they get paid for this. Like these male sex workers or the guys that work in the hotels, they get high-fived for this. But the women, it's just seen as a disgrace, an embarrassment for this, and prostitution, you should be embarrassed, but they'll make some money on the side. It's glorified by the men to pay for the sex, and you have a lot of Amsterdam, and you have the different areas. The men are glorified and high-five it and love it, but the women are seen by their society as shaking their heads, a disgrace, and things of that sort. So just take that in a little bit. Now, as for the other option, sex in tourism, this what I found very interesting, and I want you guys to kind of take this in a little bit. One of the main reasons a lot of women travel by themselves solo is because they've had a big change in their life. A lot of times women will be lost, and one of the biggest reasons women will take trips by themselves is they just got out of a very serious relationship. Many times, the guy broke up with her. So women's will travel a lot because they feel lost and they feel like they don't know what they want in life. They're trying to figure out what they're looking for. I started traveling because I love traveling. I love everything to do with traveling. For me, I don't need materialistic things. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need an expensive bag. My whole paycheck, if I could, would go to traveling. And for me, it's the freedom that we were talking about earlier. For me to be away from my schedule and to be able to explore and discover and use my language skills, for me, that's it. But I met a lot of girls along the trips that I would go on. When I was backpacking through Holland, when I was going through Switzerland, when I was going through Argentina, I would meet these female travelers that their boyfriend had broken up with them. Well, for me, the first time I started backpacking, I had just gotten out of my relationship with my boyfriend in college, and I was very, very hurt and very, very sad. So when I got the opportunity to go to Peru, I said, you know what, I want to get away from it all. This is an opportunity. And I went to Peru to escape from the pain that I felt when I broke up with my boyfriend, when my boyfriend broke up with me. So for me, this was also a release of emotions and how I felt inside. So these women, one of the reasons that they travel when we're talking about the sex and tourism is they want to validate that they're pretty. And they also want to see, they want to feel romance. They want to feel love again. They've just rebounding from their relationship. So when some of these women go to some of these resorts and stuff like that, they're very fragile and they, their heart's broken and stuff like that. So a lot of men will approach them and they want the romance. They want the quick little 2-week fling while they're there because they want to see if they can have a connection. They want to feel pretty. They want to be told by a guy that they're pretty. Women are very fragile during this time. So a lot of women will treat the sex during tourism as a romantic, or see it from a romantic point of view. Men many times, what men will do is that they will choose to engage in sex or sex and tourism to show that they got game. They want to show that they are a macho man. They want to see, I want to see if I can get myself a little bit of that foreign taste, that foreign, like, do I have an opportunity with that Thai woman, or can I have a chance? I can't understand what she's saying. And the word in Spanish, well, the phrase in Spanish is, quiero saber si tengo pegue. I want to see if I've got sticky, if I can stick, if I have game. So a lot of men will do as an opportunity to see if they can do it. They want to see if it's mainly for them, it's more seen of a game and competition. While for women, it's more for romance, is to have a companion while they're traveling, to have somebody there that they can be with. So once again, this is just, it's a little bit of a taboo subject, but I wanted to bring it up to you guys. And as always, I'm always happy to talk to you guys and discuss things with you. So this is definitely a very interesting topic. It is a little bit away from the typical leisure, sports, athletic things, but at the same time, traveling is a very big part of our lives. And I want to show you guys how the difference in gender can definitely play a role in your travels. So thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys soon.